There's something that happens in a creative city where creative people feed off each other. Like, you know, you're a painter, but you're looking at a movie. You're a movie maker, but you're looking at a piece of architecture and design. There's this idea that if you get a big creative community, it's better for everyone because those ideas circulate.
The city, it's diverse, it's big, it's constantly morphing, right? It's constantly changing. And this healthy tension between preservation and innovation.
When people hear about the creative economy, I think they think that's just Hollywood. But that's only one aspect of it. But it's also everything from video gaming and engineering and space exploration and fashion. People who are asked to use their minds, use their ideas, and try to bring them into reality.
These industries that make up the creative economy have a far-reaching impact on many parts of the local economy. We have all these symbiotic relationships, and the economic activity that is brought about because of those relationships creates a ripple effect on the local economy that is really quite significant.
One of the most amazing things about Los Angeles is our size, is our scale. It's a place where we are known for invention. Los Angeles is the place where we get to test out ideas and where the population is actually open to new ideas to be tested. And that's one of the things that makes Los Angeles that kind of creative capital of the world.
There's 81 school districts in Los Angeles County, serving 1.6 million students in public school. There is a regional plan for arts education. It's one of the strongest in the country. It's looked at as a national model. It's called Arts for All. And right now, Arts for All is working with 59 out of the 81 school districts to help them develop plans for arts education and then implement those plans.
Access to the arts is absolutely critical. We know that in order to compete in a 21st century economy, you need to have 4 critical skill sets. You need to have critical thinking, you need to have communication skills, you need to have collaboration skills, and you need to have creativity. And there is no single subject that creates those skill sets better than arts education. For young developing minds, the sooner they have exposure to creative expression, the more hardwired that's going to become in the mind. If we want to continue to have our economic competitive edge within the creative marketplace, Los Angeles must invest in arts education. And we must make sure that every student, regardless of their zip code, regardless of their socioeconomic status or their immigration status, deserves to have access to those basic skills.
Grew up in Boyle Heights, and art wasn't really there. It was working hard and religion. So when you would see art, it was a mural. So some of the first art that children in Los Angeles experience is murals and graffiti. Let's see if any of them are still there. I always sort of wanted to be an animator since I was 6 years old. Wonderful World of Disney. I saw that and I was like, oh, I want to do animation, but I had no idea on how to do it. So that's why I started doing murals, because murals were instant. Doing it now, everybody's gonna see it for a whole week. In high school, I was taking classical arts classes, and then I found out about this after-school program. And then we go to this like oasis, and you go in, and it was like this fountain and art and ceramics, and it was just amazing. And another van was coming in and it was like, oh, those guys are from Lincoln Heights. Oh, those guys are from South Central. Oh, those guys are from Belmont. Oh, whoa, this is like from all the neighborhoods. This is something big. And that was like the first exposure of gathering of like artists that I saw.
I see these kids getting off the buses and I see the potential of the human race just coming in like this. And I'm thinking to myself, how can I impact these kids? How can I help them to be prepared for what they're going to face when they grow up? To be creative, to be inventive and spontaneous. Power of training in that way really is setting the stage for a life of success, and it is really important for the future.
As a public school teacher, I value all the core subject areas, but you have to develop value for arts education. Because whatever they're learning in arts, they're taking it back into the classroom and they're finding ways to incorporate it into all the different subject areas.
I think the stereotype around art education really is based in, oh, they're having a nice time. Isn't that cute? They're making these pretty little pictures. They think, oh, art can't possibly be as important as math or science or language or any of those other things. By not realizing that art actually is a way of opening the doorway to all of the possibilities. So some kids will take a class in drawing and they'll say, wow, I want to become a clothing designer. I want to design automobiles. I want to build a new kind of spaceship. All of these things from the creative experiences they have, it empowers kids to be able to go into the future. There's something like 800,000 jobs that require creative ability, people to be able to draw, to paint, to be able to work creatively.
Nonprofit arts organizations are the backbone of the creative economy. They create access, they provide and develop the content, and they're really the research and development for the industry. Nonprofits are basically the original public-private partnership that government, individuals, and corporations and the philanthropic community need to make sure that this creative pipeline exists.
Students from the Los Angeles Unified School District come from their classroom by school bus to get intensive arts education, creativity, critical thinking, and then take that back with their classroom teacher to their school.
When we come back from art class, I do see them change in how they are as problem solvers or as critical thinkers. I can see that they're learning to approach problems outside of the box. And I think it helps build confidence in my kids.
Yesterday, speaking to a student making a marble run, I asked her what it was to be an engineer. She did not know. And I said, maybe someday you'll think about that, because we could see that she was enjoying the process of building, and maybe someday she'll be a lead engineer for Boeing, who knows.
Just teaching art is not enough. You can't just teach art. At the school program, it was creative thinking. Story development, character development, creating original content, original thought. It was creative thinking and problem solving that we developed.
Animation is really about just bringing art to life. So when I teach my class, in the beginnings, the foundation is starting from the traditional techniques of hand drawing, hand painting, hand sculpting, and then I transition them into digital media. Partly because I don't want my students to see that the cameras and the laptops are fast and easy. I really want them to be able to carry what they learn foundationally and then be able to apply the same skills in a digital platform. It was very important for me to have students be connected to industry standard software so that they know what techniques are used by professional animators. Those students get the old school and they get the new school.
How can you develop as a painter unless you have the proper tools, canvases and brushes? How can you be an animator unless you have software that is going to enable you to do what you want to do, that is a creative tool for you to be able to explore with?
A lot of them start asking me, what are some jobs that you can do after high school? Or what do I have to do? Do I have to go to college to be able to be an animator? So a lot of their questions start to form.
Teachers were not just teachers, they were also professionals working in the industry. It's a different lifestyle that I saw. People are having fun drawing, and there's money in this. And I was like, whoa, but how do you do it? Well, you got to get your portfolio. For college, there's this. And like, there's schools just for art. I'm like, whoa, there's a school. Oh yeah, it's Cartoon College. Like Cartoon College, oh yeah, Walt Disney made it. Oh, okay, what do I have to do? My good friend Leo Habaika helped me with my portfolio. Then I got in, and then I started going to cartoon college.
Los Angeles is, in my opinion, the creative capital of the world, and this will grow enormously in the next decade. We think about the traditional forms of being an actor, designer, artist, educator, but there's many, many jobs that come from a creative background. Every company has forms of creativity within itself, whether it's in science or digital media or graphic design or advertising or marketing. The amount of careers and opportunities available in the creative industries are enormous.
So I graduated as an animator from CalArts and USC, and I worked with MTV, Netflix, for Oakley and Fox. But my passion is making my own films. So that's why I'm really excited about my new project that I'm working on, El Coyote. That's an animated documentary about human smuggling between the US-Mexico border. It's fun to go back when I do presentations or visiting artist lectures. If I just go there as a teacher saying this and this, students are gonna take it, but I have an example of my work, it just hits them a different way. I show them my drawings, I show them some graffiti stuff, then I show them professional work. And so when they see that this is a job, they see that you're actually making money off your drawings. I also work at a lot of nonprofits, and right now I'm teaching animation at LACMA. It's really great that the students could check out the permanent collection, be bombarded by all this classic work, and then go into the classroom and just channel all their energy, where we reinterpret a piece of artwork from the permanent collection and give it meaning.
It's really valuable to help our kids dream, to let them know, okay, I don't just have to be a doctor, or I don't have to be just a lawyer, whatever it is that their parents tell them they need to be. Deep in their heart, they know that there's also another way. To me, I feel like it gives them a different way to dream about their future.
The Otis Report showed that 1 out of 7 jobs is in the creative economy, and that's for-profit and nonprofit and design. It's all-encompassing. If 1 in 7 jobs is in the creative economy, and we are not preparing students for the jobs that are here and the jobs that are going to be here in the future, we are failing them. So arts education is a critical part of the pipeline.
Often when students begin to study art, they're attracted to a medium, or they're attracted to a skill base that's challenging. So mastery is one of the great seducers, where you want to get better at something, and it just feels really great. And then, because it's so much better, students begin to learn how to think about art and understand this larger context in which it resides, socially, politically, personally. And as that begins to unfold, the real opportunities begin, where a person finds themselves in a world that's just much bigger and deeper than they ever thought possible.
I knew how to draw as a young kid, and the teachers in public school, like anytime they needed a drawing of a Christmas tree, they'd drag me up and do it. Keep in mind my belief that being able to draw really has very little to do with whether you should be an artist or not. But my elementary school teachers thought that was one of the markers, and so it just became something that I did. And I never imagined myself within that career. During the time I was in graduate school, I began to get an idea of what it means to be an artist and whether I want to have anything to do with that. Started teaching right out of graduate school and college in Mississippi. I moved to Fresno, California in 1968, where I taught at Fresno State. And been teaching at CalArts since 1989, and I can't imagine giving up teaching.
Really, when they're on the line, they look flat.
Because I see it as a crucial part of my studio practice. It's a place where I can throw out ideas to students and we can think imaginatively. At the time that I was working in the 70s, I was
converting real things in the world into numbers. A kind of early effort to theorize digital content at a time when nobody knew what digital content meant. But what I was doing that was different from conceptual artists was that I was investigating representation. And so I was exploring issues that was core to women and black artists through the language of conceptualism. But it didn't look like work done by a black artist.
8 trees overlaid on top of it, 8 grids.
Charles strikes me as one of the smartest and funny people I know. When I do a studio visit, I've learned to mostly listen.
Stokely Carmichael, who started SNCC in the 60s.
The way I work with my artists is we strictly look at the relationship as a partner relationship that is mutually beneficial.
Well, the last time I was here, I saw it flat on the table. You showed me the beginnings of it.
Right.
I show the work at the gallery, so I make that connection to the museums and to the market, to the private collectors.
I mean, it's kind of expensive, but it's okay.
Here in the United States, the market is incredibly important for an artist to provide the financial footing to run a large studio, to produce work, and to really have the work grow.
Is that the light tracks?
So we as gallerists provide a situation where the artist is protected from market up and downs, because they change, and they change faster and faster. We can technically show or present whatever we like. We're a private business. But once you build a larger operation like my gallery, you can't just only do what you feel like doing. You also have to make it work financially. So we are involved in every step of the artist's career. Both the reputation of the gallery and the careers of the artists grow together. Charles had a very important career in the 70s and early 80s, and then the art market crashed. And so when I picked him up, he barely had a studio, and there was very little output. So we did a show, it was very well received, and then he was invited in the Venice Biennale. And we have been doing very well ever since. Both the critical and the financial success that Charles has received has had a huge impact not only on his career, but on the whole arts economy surrounding his career. He has been able to rent a larger studio, hire assistants, and these assistants finance their own beginning art careers, and it also has a very positive impact on the gallery. And then, of course, crate builders, framers, art photographers. What we do in the gallery has a farther-reaching effect on what culture everybody experiences, because very often what you see in a museum has been shown in galleries first.
Like a, major piece in the show.
The museum acquisitions are the most important acquisitions that we can secure for an artist.
See how each of these round shapes are.
So an important milestone in Charles's career was when LACMA acquired work, and we were extremely excited.
LACMA acquired a piece called Trisha Brown Dance, and it was very important to me because it was the first actual purchase that LACMA has made in my work. And so I regarded it as a mark of the public legitimation of my career as an artist.
We showed a work of Charles's, and it's a piece of his from 1980. It's a work on paper that diagrams a dance by the performer Trisha Brown. Charles has recorded her movement with numbers. It's the kind of thing that questions abstraction versus representation.
When I was a young artist, there was much less money in the art world, and there were a lot less artists. The museums led, Right now, it's changed because The market has become so dominant and so powerful that the determination of important art is being made by the collectors themselves. A lot of people look to the market as the adjudicator of what's important. The museum has to figure out a new relationship to communities, new culture. I think LACMA is successful at that.
The thing about art museums is that they continue to be more and more popular and more central to communities. Part of it is that we are the repositories of the history of culture. But really, museums have become a gathering space for communities as well. Our digital culture has upended the idea of place because people can form a community across the globe digitally. But I've never seen that to be a replacement for the gathering spaces that human beings, as long as we live in physical bodies, still need. You have to understand what a huge impact an art museum makes on a local economy. We employ 450 people, the researchers, the curators, all the people who install works of art. They're carpenters, they're electricians. But then there's the whole business side. We have financial people, we have database specialists, we have computer programmers, we have marketing specialists, we have people who can raise money, plus numerous consultants and artists every year. We build buildings. That's hundreds of millions of dollars going into job creation. So it's an amazing investment. When people invest in the arts, they're not just making a building that's got construction dollars attached to it. They're making a destination that many people will spend money to come to.
It used to be that the major museums in the 90s were very often acquiring works from New York galleries. And it meant for artists, if they really wanted to have a major career, that they had to live and work in New York. And all of this has, in the most dramatic ways, changed in the last 10 years. The LACMA curators come and see pretty much every show that I do. So LACMA has been extremely up-to-date in knowing what's going on here and acquiring works of important artists for the museum.
I have an exhibition called Gridwork coming up at the Hammer Museum. A one-person survey of my work in general, but ultimately we got it down to my early work. LACMA had agreed to loan my piece, Trisha Brown Dance, to the Hammer. This is one of the things that important institutions do for each other.
Yeah, it's exciting to be able to see this piece again. Trisha Brown Dance is from 1980 to 1981, and I think it's indicative of a larger movement of artists who were concerned with ideas around information, and his usage of systems is a really integral part of the conversation around conceptual art. In a broad scheme, we believe in Charles and his work and what it means to other artists, other museum collections, what it means to the history of art. And so acquiring this piece is testament to its importance. It's going to be amazing to see the work over on the other side of town and to see it in a completely different context amidst other works from the same time period.
The work is coming here. Installation will start in a couple of weeks, and then we will find out how the community responds to it.
Los Angeles is getting so much international traction, and the importance as an art metropolis in the United States has greatly increased and is going to greatly increase in the next couple of years. If Los Angeles-based institution is early in the acquisition. So LACMA, the Hammer Museum, has acquired works by Charles Gaines. MoCA has acquired works. The Orange County Museum. So Charles has been very much supported by the local institutions.
Art centers are very important. And I know this because I lived in a number of locations that were not art centers. in terms of being a part of a national and international discourse about art, in terms of being in a place where your ideas have the opportunity to influence the ideas of others, art centers are crucial.
This is fantastic.
And so what we know about art is a consequence of the existence of those communities.
Economists can measure the economic impacts of the arts by looking at the impact on artists' incomes, on the numbers of hours that they work, on the viability of arts organizations, and the economic viability of the neighborhoods that they're in. But there are also what we call the intrinsic values of the arts. So really, arts' only function isn't to, generate income for other people or whatever. It's really to deliver these things that no other area of the economy can, like beauty and delight and political critique. And that is just as important as the economic impacts, because this is really the true role of arts and culture.
When I was growing up in Boyle Heights, community didn't mean a lot. There weren't a lot of places to really go entertain yourself. Even the movie theaters had all shut down. In the news, it was always about the drive-by, the gang, the drug bust. And I remember always feeling like people would look down on this neighborhood and, they'd call us the ghetto. Even though there were a lot of beautiful things that maybe people who are not Latino would not appreciate or consider culture. There was always mariachi music. There was street art everywhere. There was a muralist movement. Unfortunately, at night, things would just shut down in the neighborhood. And so I remember going to Universal City Walk or the Santa Monica Promenade because there was hardly a nightlife here in Boyle Heights. And I thought, but what's so tragic is that I go spend my money at these neon cities that are basically manufactured. They're not real communities. And I spend all my money there, and this community gets none of my money. I left to go get educated. I lived in New York City and San Diego and San Francisco. I traveled a lot, and I had success writing Real Women Have Curves, which was based on my experience working in a sewing factory. I had like 20 productions of the play. And when I came back to Boyle Heights, community meant something else. When you come to this country and you're undocumented like I was, and you don't feel Mexican, you don't feel American, you don't feel like you belong anywhere. For me, Boyle Heights was the one place where I belonged. So community represented a sense of identity. And I said, God, I would love to have my own theater so that I could tell the stories that aren't being told and present plays to celebrate this neighborhood. And I wanted everyone to know about this community, everything that you don't hear on the 5 o'clock news.
Mama, what are you doing?
I basically had no business plan, very instinctual, very improvised. And luckily, because our community was like, okay, it's a theater, fine. It's a room with chairs and a stage, okay, it's a theater. So in that sense, there was a willingness for people to imagine.
Can I just suggest?
It was very easy to get actors and actresses and get people excited because a lot of Latino actresses are so talented but don't get the opportunities because very few people write for Latino actors. So there was a whole pool of talented people that wanted to participate and join in. The idea that I had wasn't just my individual idea, but it was an idea whose time had come as far as a renaissance.
There's this buzzword in the arts community called creative placemaking. And I think the thinking goes that if you have a creative place, other creative places tend to grow up around it. Boyle Heights used to be a very Jewish neighborhood. My grandparents, great aunt and great uncle, spent some time here, a couple of them buried here. But I grew up on the west side. I mean, my experience of Boyle Heights was like to drive here for a taco every couple of years and feel really brave. And then, you know, like 15, 20 years ago, Father Greg Boyle started Homeboy Industries, and what had been a fairly gang-riddled neighborhood became less of one. And so when I came home from a job I'd been doing with the NEA in Washington, the Gold Line had opened while I was away, and I'm a transit geek, so I got off the train here at Mariachi Plaza. You know, white guy from the West Side, they could have, you know, pulled up the drawbridge. And instead, this guy, Paco, pours me a cup of coffee. And man, I was done for. I started this lending library, Libros Schmibros, in English and Spanish. Would have been the easiest thing in the world from day one to just give away books. But I wanted to make the statement that books are worth something. So we evolved this system where for $5, you get borrowing privileges here all year. You can check out a book for 3 weeks, you can certainly renew it all you want, and you get a free book to keep, winding up at home, not only where they can read it, but siblings, parents, grandparents. Libros, from very early on, has become a kind of crossroads. We see a lot of people here passing books back and forth between total strangers. When I see multiple generations of the same family come in, curled up around 2 copies of a book, one in English and one in Spanish, it just makes my day. Our lending library is on Mariachi Plaza. Some people think that they're here just playing for fun or playing to entertain each other, but that is not the case. We certainly love it when they strike up a tune, but they're hustling to feed their families.
Yo llegué a esta comunidad hace 30 años y ya estaban los mariachis aquí. Y tenemos mariachis para cualquier ocasión. Tenemos mariachis para bodas, para aniversarios, obviamente para funerales. En la organización de Omula, en los principios, tuvimos más de 200 agremiados. El trabajo de un mariachi, pues no nada más es ganar el dinero y todo bien. El trabajo de un mariachi es ir a alegrar un evento, es celebrar. Por eso te están contratando, festejar cualquier evento. Ese es el trabajo de un mariachi.
Having Mariachi Plaza just across the street from where I have my bar, Eastside Love, is incredibly important to me because when I got married back in 1993, found a couple of different mariachis, made a deal, and rocked my wedding. Growing up in the 80s in Boyle Heights in East Los Angeles, it was predominantly Mexican-American community, and it still is. When I started my bar, I didn't want to do a bar that was just for Mexicans, and I didn't want to do a bar that was just for Americans. I really wanted to do a bar that was for Mexican Americans. The businesses that exist here, the ones that thrive and the ones that continue to stay in business are the ones that are filling the needs of Mexican Americans. You sit down, you have a beer, you'll start to notice some details like our chandeliers to represent a lowrider steering wheel, plastic over our furniture, might take people back to what their grandmother did. You can order a michelada that has a saladito in it, something that if you grew up in East Los Angeles, immediately you're gonna get. Not every night is the same here at Eastside Love. I mean, we put on a lot of different nights that involve art and culture. We produce nights where we get mariachis, and you can sign up and sing with mariachis called mariachioke.
What does the first singer of the night get?
One of my favorite nights that we put on here is Morrissey-oke, where the customer could sing karaoke to the Smiths or Morrissey. So I don't really know why it is that a lot of Mexican Americans are drawn to this British singer, Morrissey, but it's there. And we get to experience it here once a month. So there's even one guy that shows up who translates all of the Morrissey songs that he sings into Spanish. And he does them beautifully, and while he's doing them, you really feel like you're looking at Mexican Morrissey. In running my bar, I really consider it like being a curator, and I really feel like every single dollar is equal to an applause. Almost like an affirmation of like, keep on doing it, we want to support you, we want to patronize your place, we believe in what you're doing.
Spaces how we have now in Boyle Heights around arts and culture really supports
the local economy by being a place that attracts people locally as well as from other neighborhoods, and then they go and support other businesses surrounding the arts and culture.
Well, now we're known as a place where world premieres of plays happen, where film festivals happen. I'd like to think that I was one of the few organizations that started the spark. But I think there were a lot of other nonprofits and activists who said, wow, we got to do something for our community. And then eventually now we have a little bit of a flame that's creating more sparks, and more artists are getting excited about our community.
As Boyle Heights begins to get on the radar of people that have more financial means than the people in that community, appropriately there's a sense of trepidation.
That's the G word. That's gentrification. Even the plaza, even Mariachi Plaza where we are, has developers circling around it.
They're discovering us. And it's kind of odd because we go, wow, we've been here all along. You're not Columbus discovering us. But if they come and acknowledge like what is already happening and say, well, how do I contribute? Rather than just saying, this is my flag, this is my neighborhood, I claim it, and they don't care about what's already going on.
How does a neighborhood change and even potentially benefit from resources that it didn't have access to before and still retain its integrity and the very texture that longtime residents are responsible for creating?
That's the big question of the day, of how do we continue to have that thriving arts and culture while making sure that those artists that have been here, that got us to this place, can continue to be here.
I think the Boyle Heights is very unique because of its rich history, but I think what is very universal is the fact that other people care and that we value community more than profit. What happens when you shift the paradigm from profit to community? Then you get a community of people that you love being around them because you go, wow, that person's being courageous. That person is really taking on their dream, and you're surrounded by dream makers. On opening night, we're usually sold out because everyone likes to come and celebrate and party with us. And it's wonderful when we present the play.
All right, enjoy the show. Mama, what are you doing? In my own house that I gladly share with my family.
I swear over my stack of Cosmo Latina that if I look in that mirror and find even a single wrinkle on my face, I'm gonna kill you.
To me, when you place value on community, you see the value in other people, your life becomes valuable. Because on your deathbed, you're not going to be saying, oh, I should have had a bigger house, I should have had a bigger car, it's going to be, wow, I should have loved more. I should have been connected to people. I should have expressed my love. And so to me, when people shift from profit to community and connection, that's when you have an artistic renaissance, because a renaissance is happening in your soul, in your heart, and then it extends wide.
I moved here from London specifically because I knew something was about to happen in this town. It was completely different than any other fashion capital. The appeal was geography, because importing was so important that almost everybody dealt in commodity brought in from the other side of the international date line, and that's what business was here. But what happened is that there were just so many people coming to Los Angeles from all over the world, and it just became a hub of diversity that I think is unequaled. It's in a very receptive atmosphere. Every fashion capital in the world has its specific niche of expertise. In Los Angeles, the list goes contemporary fashion, junior fashion, swimwear, authentic surfwear, and certainly this is the home of premium denim for the world. Denim that's expensive for a reason. Anything over $100 up to $600. Every part of a pair of premium denim jeans is designed here, manufactured here, finished here. As many as 150 people could touch one pair of jeans before it finally hits the retail shelf.
I got a job at 16 selling blue jeans at a mall in Kansas City, and It's always a dream to have my own clothing brand. A lot of these brands that trailblazed the premium denim movement, Lucky Brand, 7 for All Mankind, AG, Hudson, I mean, the best jean designers in the world have been in LA for the last 20 years. The apparel industry in Los Angeles is still one of those few places where you can learn it on the street. You could just move to LA and immerse yourself in the clothing business. And designers have done that for years.
Eric and I, we were actually neighbors in Venice Beach. We had this, what we kind of all look back now as this cup of coffee that, we had together, really where the beginning conversations of Buck Mason started.
There's kind of a general lack of interest in fashion that we possess, and more of a focus on functionality and on brand that could stand the test of time. There's a big difference between one t-shirt to the next t-shirt, just like there's a really big difference between one pair of jeans to the next. And what I wanted was to create the perfect jean and the perfect t-shirt, the one that I would want to wear every single day, and I wanted it to be at a value. But, we'd never actually designed anything.
We started with the t-shirt. We basically started with the things that we like about current t-shirts that we have. What's the best piece about this one? What's the best piece about this one? And then let's dissect it all.
We're trying to find people that had a lot more experience than us, and we could bring them our ideas and go, okay, this is what we're thinking. Like, how do we make this?
I wouldn't even have considered starting a clothing brand if we were in Los Angeles. In our own backyard, you have some of the most world-class cut and sew and clothing manufacturers, and it's just, why would we not want to be involved with the entire process from start to finish and be able to shake the hands of the people that, make our product rather than shipping a sample overseas and getting it back 6 weeks later.
There's a whole underworld of garment manufacturers in Los Angeles that, are small. You get south of downtown and you start exploring, you start to go down alleys and, it's amazing what you find. You find a dye house off the beaten path in the middle of nowhere. You find a sewing facility. They don't have a website. You're lucky if you can find some sort of a listing, but they exist because of a consistent business that they're doing with a lot of small to medium-sized brands. If you want to do this overseas, my minimums are 5,000 units per style and color, and I need $500,000 just to get this thing off the ground. But to be able to say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna work with this little tiny cut and sew facility, and I'm going to start with 68 units, 90 units, 100 units, and I'm gonna see what happens, You can do that. And I think that that's been one of the coolest parts about manufacturing in LA.
The thing that we tried to do as a business is find ways to make American-made more affordable. Find a way to make clothing in Los Angeles, but offer it to our consumer at a more competitive price.
It's almost natural that Los Angeles would become a home for denim jeans, and especially premium denim jeans. Last year, Los Angeles did $14 billion in denim, and 2.2 of that was premium denim, because all the expertise is here in this city.
Premium denim brands have been so successful in Los Angeles is because we've got the best wash houses in the world. It's the wash techniques that have been developed that are advanced that I think have been a big part of it. The ingenuity and the talent and the resources are all here.
The garments come into our facility cut and sewn. It's very dark indigo. The denim is actually quite rigid and hard. Most people wouldn't want to wear it. What we do here is we age the denim. What would take you 6 months to maybe 2 years, we do in a week or so. Every brand is different in their aesthetic, so we have to cater to every designer, what their aesthetic is. The designers can go and see their product every day. We can make constant tweaks. We can keep up with fashion, and we can turn things very quickly here. And that is part of the speed to market that Los Angeles offers that really overseas can't. We're doing less units, but more variety of washes and more variety of finishes. The washing process may include stone wash, bleaching, tinting for color, the handwork that we do, and softening. The actual labor is where premium denim separates from the cookie cutter denim that's cheap and available in the market. Our workers are highly skilled in order to have that delicate hand to make all these little details. Whiskers, chevrons, hand sanding. Every pair is just slightly a little different, but consistent. That's the beauty of premium denim. Every pair is literally handmade by an actual artist. I go out there and I can tell them exactly what I want, but I don't think I can do what they do. And yes, you do get a little variation, but that's kind of the beauty of it. It makes the jean a little bit more authentic. That's quite an intricate process to actually destroy a pair of jeans.
This job, it's not to do the same thing every day. For the next day, you don't know what kind of jeans you're going to develop. You have to create ideas. You don't have a rule. You don't have exactly like what you're going to do. On chemicals, on washes, on hand sanding, on all the process, you could change it. Jeans are my life, and it's really, really fun for me.
To an actual click. So
you have to click right here.
That's the one.
Being an online brand is just as much about building a product that it is about storytelling, to be honest with you. We're continually searching for new ways to display our products and tell a story on both how they're made and how they fit. Our website is our lookbook, and it evolves constantly, whether it's with new content or with new features or with new products. And we're very specific in our photo shoots or our video shoots to wrap it all around one cohesive narrative that is always communicated to our customer.
The male model search is very difficult. For us, it's about finding this kind of authenticity, this sincerity, people that our customer can connect to. So often, the products are so similar, with the ability to give brand new content every single day, and all of these mobile applications, and this whole creative marketing component has become such a huge element of what sets brands apart.
It's all about the collaborative process and partnering and teaming with the right people, from your tech team to your content team to your manufacturers, social and PR. It's all kind of works together to tell that story. A lot of people associate Los Angeles with the film industry, but what's really happening here is that there's just so much media, tech, designers, all at your disposal, and we can all work together to make beautiful things.
Being a fashion designer in Los Angeles is a gift because there's so much inspiration from every culture imaginable that's in this city.
If you think about 10 years ago, we had no idea what the new technologies were going to be. So we don't know what new jobs are going to be invented in the next 10 years. That's part of what arts does, is it creates the next opportunity, the next big idea. Creativity isn't just for entertainment anymore. It's being embraced by science companies, technology companies, companies that are squarely rooted within innovation. And that's because creativity opens up your mind.
Originally, science and art were very closely aligned. 500 years ago, the people who were scientists were also philosophers and artists. Bringing together of the domains of art and science has emerged over the last decade, eroding boundaries between disciplines.
Sometimes I work on art pieces, but I've always had a fascination with science. Everything that I do, I always try to figure out what is the essence of the place or the subject matter that I'm working with and develop something meaningful for that. I think of myself as a creative problem solver. When I think of JPL, I think of a place that is doing what's on the edge of what's possible, and what's the edge of what's possible of exploration. So what's great about JPL is that there's a lot going on. We're trying to understand our Earth, the land and the sky and the sea. We're trying to land robots like Curiosity on Mars. We're discovering stars and galaxies far, far away with telescopes that are in space.
Creativity is essential to explore, because when you are exploring,
You're basically doing things that have never been done before. So you have to be creative. You have to be thinking out of the box. You have to be pushing the limit.
Both in art and science, we make hypotheses and then explore, and we test things, and then we see what the result is. And I think artists and scientists think very much alike.
If you had a choice of anywhere to explore, it wouldn't be the bottom, it wouldn't be the top of the ice. It'd be right under the bottom of the ice field.
Can you draw the thickness of the ice?
Dan and his team, they bring a different perspective for people who are doing research. They will say, well, have you thought about it in this way? Or have you thought about this thing in that way?
Gravity Climb Explorer.
And you can never tell where a new idea will come from.
For the moon.
The artists and the scientists have many things in common, and then they complement each other. The engineers and the scientists tend to be, following things very accurately. And the artists have a completely open mind, look at things from a different perspective. Bringing the two together enriches both sides, where the artists tell you what's possible, and then we go and try to make that possible actually happen.
Over the past few years, I've been able to build a team. There's 6 of us now, all with varied backgrounds in this, we just call it the studio here at JPL. What I've always wanted the studio to be is really where they want to talk through their challenges and for us to develop creative ways of solving that.
One of the key challenges, we were thinking about a mission to Jupiter. And for the scientists, it was hard to visualize what the surface of the clouds on Jupiter would look like. And here Dan comes with his team. And as they interacted with the scientists and started to understand the dynamic of the atmosphere on Jupiter, they went and had a lab here where they actually used carbon dioxide and used a number of chemicals to actually visualize what the top of the atmosphere of Jupiter looks like. And that really fascinated the scientists because it allowed them to do some experiments as if you are standing there on Jupiter. So that's where creativity, getting out of the box thinking, and then bringing engineering discipline, you bring them together and you can accomplish amazing things. Dan and his artistic team, really they play 2 roles. One, they help the scientists here at JPL, looking at things in a different way. But equally important, maybe even more important, is how do you communicate that to the public? How you take some very scientific concepts that are very hard to understand and put them in a way that the general public can see the value of them and understand them.
Visualizing data has always been something that's been fascinating to me, or experiencing it in some way. And I wanted people to get a sense of what JPL is doing at this moment. So I was able to create this art piece called The Pulse. As lights go up, that means that we are sending commands to a spacecraft at this moment. As lights come down, that means that we're receiving information. Maybe it's a brand new picture from Mars, maybe it's a little bit of information about Saturn and its rings. And then the amount of light represents how much information is going back and forth.
It was actually useful because you can connect this to our actual mission operation room. At any time, I can walk in there and be able to tell what data is coming down, what spacecraft we're communicating with. It's really at the boundary between art and science.
Yeah, that'll work. Let's try this.
These are solar panels?
Yeah, and then we have to be able to point the engines in different directions.
There's a place here that we call left field. So the ideas come out of left field, that's sort of the idea. So that's like the early brainstorming. It's the place where we develop new ideas for the future. This team is made up of a lot of different kinds of people. There'll be engineers, there'll be scientists, there'll be technologists, and then there'll be people from our studio in there as well. It may seem like arguments, but they're really sharpening each other. Many people agree that if you have people with different backgrounds in the same room, you're going to come up with really unique, creative answers to problems.
Part of the creativity is to actually try different ideas. And the key thing is not to be afraid of trying new things, even they might not work. And 90% of them wouldn't work, and that's fine. As long as 10% actually work, that will be good enough for us.
I am an integration manager at the Satellite Development Factory in El Segundo, California for the Boeing company. As a child growing up with immigrant parents in Boyle Heights, I had to learn to be creative in order to find solutions to our challenges. When I finally discovered what engineering was, it made so much sense that I would be an engineer. It's about working efficiently, using the limited resources that you have to find creative solutions to problems that impact people. How do we take the products that we have today and make them better? My first internship was at NASA, at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, where I got to work on Curiosity. And now I work at Boeing, at the largest satellite development factory, where the NASA TDRS satellites are being produced. There's creativity every single step of the way there. From the design phase, of course, it's using all of that creativity to develop the next technology in satellites, making them more efficient, making them lighter, making them easier to manufacture.
2, 1.
If there's a problem with the satellite, once it's launched, we don't get to bring it back and fix it. So we have to make sure that everything that we do as we're integrating it is of the highest quality.
We have to learn how to fix things that are far away with things that are here on Earth, and that's really hard. And sometimes that causes a crisis. It's in those crisis modes where creativity comes into its being.
Often when people think of engineers, they don't think of creativity. But there's creativity in the work that we do every single day.
We interact a lot with many of the companies which are in Southern California, and the benefit comes from exchange of ideas and sometimes from exchange of people. And then you have the industry which capitalizes on that knowledge and new capabilities and to make it an economic powerhouse. Many of our mission, actually, we have dozens and dozens of companies. They build our hardware, and then they take those hardware and they use it somewhere else. California basically was founded by explorers, be it explorers who came from Mexico or explorers who came from the East. And it's that spirit of exploration and adventure, which I think is embedded in the spirit of California. But we are always pushing the limit and coming with new ideas and taking what for some people are dreams and actually makes them reality. So creativity really is at the foundation as exploration. Anybody who explores has to be a creative person.
One of the important things Los Angeles needs to do to maintain its role as a leader in the creative economy is to really ensure that everyone in the region is engaged as participants and that the pipeline for creative people is really strong from all ethnic groups, from all socioeconomic layers, because that will produce a really rich, complex, dynamic creative economy.
But when you think about what the future holds, the elements of art, of creativity, are at the core of what's necessary to thrive as a society.
I think increasingly people recognize that an economy that is based on new ideas, that links back to creativity, is rooted in diversity. That the more perspectives and cultures and languages and ethnicities, backgrounds that you have, is a kind of ferment that can result in breakthroughs, that can result in innovation. 20 years ago, our diversity was seen as a challenge. Today, it's seen as one of our greatest strengths, and critical to whether Los Angeles will maintain its leadership as the creative crossroads of the world.